Great. Thank you all so much for joining us. I know we have some attendees hopping on right now, so we're going to get started in just about a minute here. Wait for a couple more attendees to hop on. Alrighty. Well, I will go ahead and get us started here because we have a lot to cover today. So thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. Presidio and Microsoft present Building the Foundation for Successfully Utilizing GenAI, the Art of Right Now. We're looking forward to a great session this afternoon. To begin, as some basic housekeeping items, please remember to use the chat tool, and there's also a Q&A tool to ask any questions to our speakers, and we'll address these questions throughout the presentation as time allows, and additionally, at the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. Also, this session is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording link following the session today. And then lastly, please wait until the end of the event to fill out the QR code to scan to get into a drawing to win an awesome prize. So with those small housekeeping items, let's get started. Next slide, please. To begin today's session, I would like to introduce our Presidio speakers. First up, we have Rob Phillips, who is our Senior Director of Microsoft Sales. Parush Namalwar is a Principal Architect. Mladen Milanovic is our Vice President of Automation. And Brian Slade is a Microsoft Solution and Sales Specialist here at Presidio. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rob, Parush, Mladen, and Brian. Brian, I will now pass the presentation off to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, McKenna. So once again, thank everyone for joining today. Our webinar around building the foundation for successfully utilizing GenAI. And when we talk about the art of right now, to give some context on where that comes from, it really comes straight from feedback that we received from customers like yourself, who have either done research on GenAI, have done a lot of work with Microsoft, and fundamentally what you came back to us is you said that you love GenAI, the possibilities, or to use Microsoft speak, the power of right now. When Presidio looks at GenAI, we truly think of it as a disruptive moment, within the industry. Now, when we say disruptive, we mean that in a good way, that this is not like blockchain or anything like that. That when I think about Andy Grove, the longtime and second CEO of Intel, in his book, he talked about inflection points and how critically important those inflection points are and how a business handles them could mean the difference between success or failure, as in the case of some companies like a Blockbuster Entertainment, Kodak, etc. We truly want today, February 1st, 2024, to be our inflection point, to have us together start down that journey to once again successfully utilizing GenAI. In the demos, customer examples, use cases, etc., that you're going to see here, these are some of the top things that we found in working with our customers that are truly resonating right now. And when you see those demos and those use cases, please look at them from your business standpoint and how you can truly see it having a 2, or a lot of times we're finding more than 3x increase in your productivity, your effectiveness, your efficiency, and of course, then those are all leading to profitability for you and your business. Once again, we have a great lineup here for you today. Tremendous speakers. I'm going to go ahead now and transition it over to Parush.
Thank you, Brian. So we want to level set this conversation on where AI, everybody hears the terminologies like AI and machine learning and large language models and generative AI. There is a bit of a demystification we would like to do before we dive into it. So we're all on the same page where large language models and generative AI fits in the bigger ecosystem of AI and ML. AI is mimicking human intelligence, right? Any system without explicit instruction. And then ML, machine learning, which is basically a pattern finder that can look for patterns among data and pre-trained models and make useful predictions or make decisions based on data. And then inside that, you have a subsystem that is neural networks, where these are composed of interconnected nodes that can learn to recognize patterns in data. As a subset of that, you have inside that you have deep learning, which is a series of neural networks that you can have multiple, you can layer them to make even more predictions, more complex models, and that you can do for your business. And generative AI is a subfield inside deep learning, and inside that you have large language models. So today's focus is mostly going to be on generative AI and large language models and how it applies to enterprise applications. The next slide will also give you a bit more context on generative AI before we dive into the details. Um, with that said, let's go focus on the introduction here. So today, we are diving into the world of generative AI and technology that's reshaping our approach to creativity and innovation. Arthur C. Clarke famously said, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." Gen AI embodies this, turning once impossible into reality. These are all different capabilities that we are familiar with at varying levels. At a personal level, it can generate anywhere from poems to code with the accuracy of writing a poem in creative way, or creating code, creating visuals from your ideas, and it's multilingual, and being fluent helps you build enterprise applications and answer questions in a more informative and a comprehensive way. Summarize large quantities of text data into concise format that we all use today, right? Uh, how it gets used is what we covered on the right, and then on the left, you have what are the key characteristics of generative AI? If you look at that, in pretty much all the flavors of generative AI, it uses a large amounts of data to be useful, to create useful insights, and it's open-ended and versatile and adaptable in that it's not it allows you to be creative and innovative. It's context aware, and this allows us to be human-like in how we communicate with generative AI, which is very important when we apply these technologies to business. You have your customers adopting it, right? And then you have continuously improving and evolving. So it's not like it's a journey. When you implement these solutions in your business, it's not like one and done. It's this technology is evolving fast, and and we can help you evolve how it applies to your business. So that's a quick introduction, and then we'll dive into how our customers are using generative AI and harnessing the powers across various industries. We'll get into the use cases a bit. So summarization, conversational AI, writing assistance, knowledge mining, faster development. These are all some of the use cases that we see that are very common. So outside of this, you have more customers who are embracing generative AI for more advanced use cases as well. But these are some of we would want to call it low-hanging fruit use case to get started. We have customers who have developed enterprise applications, applying large language model to their data to summarize like product reviews, articles, long form reports. And that's a typical use case. We have a demo that shows how a bot to human handoff could look like. The very next demo that gets into that. And then also deriving insights. You have all kinds of unstructured data in your enterprise. We can derive insights from that. The demos will show you that. And then within the conversational AI space, you have customer service bots, enterprise Q&A, and end-to-end contact center solution. These are all common use cases we can implement, and I can show what that looks like. Writing assistance, we have implemented projects for our customers where they have existing set of artifacts that they've already vetted, and their analysts, this is one customer, right? They're creating new content based on vetted articles by feeding partially written content, and then it's using the vetted articles to create new content that's grounded in their data. That's a use case that we see commonly. And then domain-specific research from a knowledge mining standpoint, and doing social media trend analysis and surfacing other insights. So from a vertical standpoint, we see a varying spectrum of like maturity and adoption. And also we see customers from all these different industries working with us on. All right. So with that said, let's dive into an end-to-end customer care demo. So this is a demo that we created to re-envision like how could customer experience be modernized. So we all are customers at some point in working with different businesses. This use case talks about a citizen working with a government agency. This could easily apply to any enterprise as well. We'll quickly walk you through. So here's a demo. I'm going to skip around so I can show you. It's a longer demo. When you come to the MTC in-person event, we can spend a lot more time on these use cases. So here, what you're seeing is the citizen conversing with a bot asking like, I have questions on Snap benefit system, right? They're asking, it's not like that information does not exist in the public website. It does. It's just way too complicated for an average user to decipher all the information and the nuances. So they're just asking in a plain English, saying, hey, how can I, looking for specific information. So what we're doing here, what we're doing here is actually this bot is responding and trying to understand what what they're asking, and it's responding in a manner in a human understandable format. And it's also providing citation, so they can actually look up the source information. So that's a good use case. So you can deflect a lot of contact center calls or incoming interactions by answering some of the commonly answered questions using publicly available data. So this bot is responding. So now they still need more help. So now this is transferred to an agent. From an agent standpoint, what you don't want to do is have the agent repeat the entire conversation back the customer had with the bot. So we need to summarize that. So off to the right, what you see, this is the agent's view. So agent gets a full view of what was said before the entire transcript and also the summary of the transcript. Again, we're using the same large language model to summarize, right? Earlier, you use the large language model to have a conversational experience. Here now you're summarizing it up to the right. Let me keep going here. So, and as part of this back and forth this agent is having with this customer, so if you see here, this customer says like, hey, my um, benefit was rejected because I did not fill midpoint review. Let's say that is a very esoteric thing. Citizen doesn't know that. And they're asking why was it rejected? So this agent, they know what that is, but you want them to respond with the curated content that is trusted. So as long as your model is pointing to that curated content, the responses or can be accelerated, so they don't have to type all of this. And that's really what we're showing you, where they can take the answers based on the trusted content in the backend. And not only that, we can also do, since it's a sentiment aware, context aware, we can allow the agent to say, hey, how can I put the human judgment on top? How can I send the answer back in a different tone if they're, upset and what have you, reassuring? These are all things you can do on the content that was generated on the fly without the agent having to recreate all of this or type all of this manually. So now let's keep going forward. So feedback is key and supervision is key in any contact center. What we're showing you here is all this content, the back and forth that's happening between the customer and the bot and the agent. We know all this transcript, right? So now we can apply sentiment analysis and other types of analysis, again, using same generative AI, and provide the supervisor analytics powered by LLM and give them insights and say, hey, what was good about this interaction? Where can they improve so they can systematically help them train. Even in training, you can apply the same technology. So what you're seeing here, the agent knowledge ratio and bot knowledge ratio, what is the difference, and tone-based KPIs, and also word cloud. All of this was possible through LLM. Then let's go to the next use case. So we have created, this is more like a demo like a platform that we built for our own solution architects, folks in my team. So we work with cloud solutions all the time. How do we accelerate our own work stream using GenAI. That's really a re-envisioned approach is what this is. So think of this as a companion that we built for ourselves that allows us to like use words to describe the customer problem statement and also solution details. And it will generate diagrams in terms of what an architecture diagram could look like. In this particular example, the customer happened to be using cloud-based solution, and we are creating architecture diagrams, ladder diagrams. So it's not the end all be all, but the idea is to get this work stream accelerated so that the human judgment can be applied on this work product, so we can get to the final result quickly. That's the use case. So here it's creating content not just for the technical artifacts, but also internal, like how many resources we need. These are all additional layers of intelligence we can add, and that's what we're showing you here. And even creating scope of work, contract language, right? These are all things we are doing. So this is created by GenAI on templates that we have using prompt engineering. I'm gonna, in the interest of time, we can again in the MTC in-person events that are about to come, which McKenna will talk about, we can go more in depth on some of these use cases and how it applies to your business. All right, with that said, I'm gonna go to the next slide. So when we look at this, right, the spectrum of possibility with GenAI and what our customers are innovating with, we need to look at the foundation lies in the robust data management, which is a critical enabler for innovation across all stages of GenAI adoption, right? Whether you're exploring initial use cases or scaling GenAI solutions, the components of modern data platform are really pivotal. So like things like consider metadata management, which ensures data is accurately described, data quality, the backbone of reliable AI predictions, and data constructs like master and reference data, essential for consistency. Alongside, you have like document and content management to protect our assets. You have data cataloging, facilitating discovery, defining architectural standards. All these things are really important. If you're adopting Gen AI and you don't have a more mature modern data platform, if you're new to this type of application, you can still work on some of the low-hanging fruit use cases, right? And or work on ideations that we offer, ideation sessions and working backward sessions. So you can still move towards that as you mature your data modernization aspect. So what we see is customers who are dominating their industries, they tend to invest and understand the criticality of building and modernizing the data platform so that you can unlock a more deeper advanced use cases in Gen AI because you have that richer data for you to ground your large language model on. So we talked about all the possibilities and the power and the magic of generative AI and large language model. We also covered the demonstration of few of the examples. It behooves us to look at what is the security aspect of it, what kind of attack surface it opens up, because you're now talking about a powerful, awesome application or technology like this. So if you look at this, right, these are all some of the, like Gartner points out some of the things that is really important to consider as you adopt this technology. So we want the idea is to focus on what is like for example your upskilling, right? Your attackers are now they can just use regular language to build more sophisticated code to create malware. And then plausibility, like no longer do you see people writing poorly written English to create like phishing emails. Now they can create content as if it came from real source, but it's it's made by Gen AI. So you have impersonation is a problem, polymorphism, autonomy, and then novel attacks. Like we don't even know the types of attacks that are yet to come. This is a big threat. So these are all on the threat side. So what does it mean? What can you do from mitigating these threats? We have delivery assurance components that we work with our customers on. Whether it's working with, you have your data, the enterprise data, and then you create a vectorization of that, right, to create a standard retrieval augmented generation pattern. Now, how role-based access control works in a traditional database-based applications is different than how you do this for generative AI-based applications. So there's nuances to that. So we help our customers on RBAC from a security standpoint, right? That is key. And then accuracy to verify if the application that you're building with LLM, whether it's providing answers accurately, that's grounded on your enterprise data. In order to verify, the how you verify varies. So it's not like how you do typically other standard application testing. This is more you use LLM for that. And how do you go about that? There's a framework for this. So these are all thoughts that we have invested in and frameworks we have invested in to help our customers who are a bit more advanced and ready to take this to production so they can mitigate these risks. Cost management is part of that. How do you effectively use like a cheaper models for low hanging fruit use cases and more sophisticated models for complex queries? And then analytics on LLM and how it gets used, context, we can go dive into these kinds of details when we sit down on these MTC events. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna move to the next slide. So at a broad spectrum, we offer, this is where our customers are asking for from a broad spectrum of to meet our customers where they're at. You have customers who have identified which use case they want to prototype on and create a POC on using their own data in their Azure tenant. And we have a rapid start program focused just on generative AI. It's a 4 to 6 week use case, building a non-production POC, so you can quickly test and validate with your own data with a UI that your team, your stakeholder would like. That's what that is about. And then on the middle one is more about customers who already implemented all of that. Now they want to take it to production, all the governance and security acceleration. How do you apply that, the rigor for LLM ops and the governance and security, all of this bias, for example, bias mitigation, guardrails. These are all things that go into this type of consulting work that we do. Then you have customers who are already in an engineering mode where they're delivering products that use GenAI. They need a talented engineering team that's cross-functional, that has AI and ML developers and have UI UX folks as well and QA, a fully functional cross-functional team that can augment your existing initiatives. We can provide generative AI product-oriented delivery. So with that said, Rob, I want to hand this off to you.
Yeah, thank you, Parush. And thank you all for joining us today. You know, good afternoon, good morning, whichever time zone that you're in. Just going to walk through a little bit of, introduction on Copilot, some demos. Like many of you, Presidio jumped in on the early adoption of Copilot when it was announced or went GA back in November. We spun up the minimum 300 licenses, which actually has now been lifted, by the way. Just a quick audience poll. How many of you are, with a thumbs up or thumbs down on the React, how many of you were aware that no longer do you have to purchase 300 Copilot licenses? Okay, good. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. You can spin up literally 2 licenses, if need be, to start testing with this. So great, that's good response. Perfect. So we didn't conduct a readiness assessment, prior to spinning up. We got the licenses about mid-November. I would say it took us about, 30 days. We did do a pretty detailed security and compliance review with our cybersecurity team prior to handing out the licenses. Based on some of that security readiness that we did, we didn't turn on the actual integration between the internal data and the internet. We wanted to keep that separate. We're still kind of testing the waters on that. But end users can still use Copilot against internal data or the internet. It's just a toggle switch between the two. When we want to make sure our CISO team is comfortable before turning that lever on and allowing both of those simultaneously. However, Copilot created a big buzz within the company. And being the keeper of the keys, I had a ton of requests for licenses as soon as the word got out. It took us about 30 days, like I said, from the time we procured the licenses to start deployment into our early adopter group. We also created a Center of Excellence team, which I highly recommend, as well as a very collaborative Teams channel for things like mind sharing of data and ideas and things like that on how to use Copilot better. It's been great. Just the collaboration in that group has been pretty cool to see. From a deployment perspective, we created a security group within our Azure Entra. We enabled licenses within that, so anybody in that group was enabled for the licenses. This made it really easy to add users to the early adopter group, kind of manage that adoption. I will say, given the buzz and the people that ask for the Copilot licenses, we're still at about 70% adoption rate, which we're tracking very closely. We're working with those individuals that aren't consuming it yet to understand why. Some of the issues that we've uncovered are Mac users are very different than PC users in the way they see it and what they have to do to see the integration. Some users we had were on a semi-annual channel update, which means that they didn't get a lot of the latest updates they need to actually see the Copilot integration, the icons that are in the app. They'll see everything in the online applications. So, if they use Word online, PowerPoint online, any of the Office portal, they'll see the Copilot chat, but they won't see things in the desktop apps if they're not on the current update channel. But overall, the experience has been amazing. Most people say they're saving about 3 to 5 hours per week on mundane tasks that were, pretty manual or tedious before. So let's jump into it. Like, what is Copilot 365? How can it help you? How can it help you work every day? Some people call it a virtual assistant. The struggle that most people feel is trusting to delegate tasks or thinking of tasks that they really could use an assistant for. A large part of getting the value out of Copilot is really being good at the prompts, what you ask it. The prompts basically is what it sends to the large language model. That's then interpreted and searched across what's called the Microsoft Graph, which contains all your apps, all your data within 365, and even perhaps the internet, like we spoke of before. Copilot for 365 is a very sophisticated processing and orchestration engine. It is a SaaS service that provides AI-powered productivity capabilities. So at a fundamental level, it has a very few core components, right? Parush talked about large language models. It contains a large language model. Microsoft Graph is really the content that's in your emails, your chat, your documents, and that graph has permissions to access that data. And it does follow any of the compliancy and security permissions that 365 has. So the apps that you use every day, like Word and PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Loop, if you use Loop, all of those now can operate with Copilot to support users as a virtual assistant. It combines that power of that large language model with your data. Basically, so not just at the point of time when the large language model was trained, but in real time, up-to-date knowledge. It can be accessed through the natural language across all your Microsoft 365 apps. We're going to go through a few demos here in a second, just to basically turn words into very powerful productivity tools that you can use every day. I mentioned earlier that Presidio chose not to turn on the internet integration with the on-prem corporate data. With that said, everything that we've seen or tested really truly keeps the data secure and separate. If, again, it follows all the security and compliance policies that you have in place within your 365 tenant today. And I suspect Presidio is probably days or weeks away from actually integrating that and turning those features on. So next slide, please. So just, to just talk about how it's integrated into 365. You can be more creative in Word. You can be more analytical in Excel, much more expressive in PowerPoint, as I'll show you here in a second. If you use Outlook, you can be more productive with email summarization, creating drafts, things like that. And then more collaborative in Teams, team recaps, being able to train Copilot to do action items and things like that within your meetings. So let's jump into the demos. Our first demonstration here involves using Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. And a lot of these, are kind of canned demos, but it's good to talk through them. You can access the Copilot chat in an online tenant by browsing to copilot.microsoft.com, and it'll bring up the 365 Copilot chat. In this exercise here, we're asking Copilot to summarize all my recent Teams messages about a client called Falcon Climate Finance. Okay. As we build out the demo, Copilot takes our prompt. It begins to create a response to that prompt. It starts searching through all my Teams messages regarding the client. As you can see, it quickly provides a response and references to all the messages regarding this client. So, and you'll see each of the reference numbers that it provides back are actual actionable links and takes you right to that message that it's regarding. Okay, so as this builds here, you'll see, if we were to look under the covers, we'd see that the prompt via the large language model reached out to the Microsoft Graph, specifying what to look for within Teams for references. Graph then uses the semantic index, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and it finds all the references to the client that were contained within Teams. It then builds a response back based on those instructions that the LLM gave the graph, and then the context and the content of it now can be found and rendered back to the user for the results and the retrieved content back to me. Great. So our next quick demo here is around drafting an email in Outlook. Go ahead and click through. Again, this is another quick demo about just doing a simple draft in Outlook. In this demo, we're prompting, at Copilot, which is going to bring up the language model, lets us do a prompt. We're going to ask to draft an email to Lily, asking her to be, we had a presenter drop out of our, supply chain all hands meeting tomorrow, looking to see if Lily can become a last minute presenter. The beauty of this you'll see is, Copilot not only does a great job of using the language model and creating the draft, but it's also adding some sentiment to it as well. Like, so sorry for the last minute ask, right? And as you can see, it includes that and kind of pleads it in the email. And we'll just kind of let this cycle through a couple times so you can see what that draft email looks like. Great. The next demo, we'll look at creating a PowerPoint presentation. So we'll ask Copilot here to create a PowerPoint presentation based on a proposal that we have to a customer. And this one's, even though it's not a real world Presidio example, this is invaluable to our sales team. If you've ever worked with us as a customer, we almost always use something that we call a project vision document, which is essentially a summary of a project, including things like, what is the ask? What are the requirements of the ask? What's the scope look like? What's the timeline look like? What's the cost? A proposal or SOW or statement of work is usually a number of pages, right? Lots of fine print, really hard to go through with a customer. But a vision doc provides us a really great overview and summary of some of the essential components of a project. So from our use case with Copilot, we can go one step further. We can ask it to create the content, based on a SOW or a proposal using our own PowerPoint template. So, all of our vision docs have their own branding, their own formatting, things like that. So it's going to come out with all our fonts and sizes and things like that. It's also very easy to ask Copilot to make all fonts Arial, right? And make them all gray or black. These are things that, before we'd have to go page by page through a presentation and really make sure things were done correctly. It takes Copilot a matter of seconds to change these on the fly. All right, last demo, and this one's going to be more of a real demo that we use here, or a use case that we use here. In our hybrid world, we're full of virtual meetings and team meetings. If you're like me, there's times where we're double booked, or we can only attend a portion of the meeting, whether it's the first or last half of it. So I'm going to use our rehearsal that we did for our webinar, this webinar today, as an example. I can actually go in, I can ask Copilot to transcribe the meeting, take notes, which is really becoming a standard practice here. And honestly, I think out of all the people poll, like you'll find this is one of the big time savers. Based on those notes, I can go back anytime and ask for a recap of that meeting, as you can see here. Copilot brilliantly brings up a great recap. It brings up any follow-up tasks that were discussed. I can see the recordings, the times that people actually talked during the meeting, and then I can ask it for specific actions that were, for me, right? Like, was there any specific asks that were assigned to me? And I can see that there was 2 very specific asks for me. I would say out of all the art of now with Copilot and productivity gains, this to me is one of my biggest time savers. And the notes and the action items, the tasks that come out of these are better than we as a human could be. We've actually had some project managers test this out, taking notes and creating action items, things like that. And the consensus is Copilot takes more accurate notes. They're more comprehensive, and it does it in far less time than it would take us to do that, as a human. So those are my quick demos. I'll now hand the presentation over to my colleague, Mladen Milanovic, and he's going to give you a quick presentation on AI-powered process automation.
Well, thank you very much. So let's just kind of start. First, thank you for joining us. So let's start real quick. Why we are talking about process automation together with the generative AI. And idea is very simple. So during the Rob's part of the presentation, you saw the part where we can ask Copilot to do certain things or to pull data from a specific area, leveraging in this specific situation a graph API. So we are seeing from the people that are curating and building the large language models, they are creating so-called agents. But as we all know, in a rich enterprise, there is a plethora of different applications, and some of those apps do not have APIs, or APIs are difficult to obtain, or this is not very easy to integrate. So that's where process automation jumps in, because what we can do and what we can achieve is we can leverage those cognitive services that are provided by generative AI or AI models, and then leverage power of process automation platform to really execute those tasks and perform all that heavy lifting of the repetitive tasks, doing specific actions, maybe actions in a SAP, actions in a custom develop or a homegrown ERP, etc., etc. So when we are working with different clients of different sizes from different industry verticals, from higher education, state and local government, to the commercial application, to the commercial customers as well. And the number one demand from our customers is to provide the solutions that are going to deliver on cost reduction, efficiency, and figure it out how we can build systems that are going to provide enhanced customer satisfaction. So my predecessors, my colleagues in the previous part of the presentation, they talk about that as well. Purush's demo around customer satisfaction and how we can really leverage those large language models in those type of scenarios. That's exactly what we are talking about here. And if we look some of our customers, you can see some of the statistics where we can achieve some cost savings. So if we really leverage the power of AI cognitive services and tie them with a process automation tool, we can really create a end-to-end solution and deliver on most of the business outcomes that that our customers are looking for. Next slide, please. When we look where process automation makes sense, one of the things is everywhere. So this is a slide that Bain and Company built based on their research, and they looked in a different areas where intelligent or AI power process automation can make a difference and create those efficiencies. And if you look all those areas, This is matching majority or matching pretty much entire value chain of any commercial or state and local and educational entities. You will see a little brain with the gears in. So we mark certain areas where we see that those additional cognitive services, especially around around the generative AI, can really make a difference. As you guys know, this webinar is a precursor for our on-site events. And during those on-site events, we are going to spend a little bit more time really talking about different use cases and show you different demos where we integrated a process automation platform and cognitive services in order to deliver on the business outcome. Next slide, Purush. So with all that being said, we at Presidio, we decided to build a holistic approach to AI-powered automation. What does that mean is that when we engage with a customer like yourself, we primarily focus on a business outcome and what that automation challenge is and what that automation has to deliver, or what's the ask, right? Based on the desired business outcome, we propose a solution that is going to leverage and fully understand your existing technology stack. And then we're going to create a solution that will leverage process automation platform. And you guys know Microsoft Power Automate is becoming a tool of choice for lots of our customers. And we can leverage not just the traditional API integration or any API framework through the low-code, no-code Power Platform, but we also can leverage so-called desktop automation, where we're going to build those bots that are going to integrate with the applications, leveraging the UI. We will, if needed, and usually it's something that we using more and more. We can leverage those cognitive services, generative AI, traditional AI, machine learning models to help automation make a decision and build unique workflow that will deliver on that business outcome. Another thing that is very interesting, especially when we look at the Power Platform and Power Automate environment, is our ability to build interfaces or interaction channels, how end users are going to interact with those AI Power Automation solutions. So we can configure and connect those solutions or those automation workflows with the customers that are going to send an email. We will analyze email and perform the action. We can do the same thing with a chat. We can do that with a phone call, or we can build a custom Copilot, custom form where user is going to select specific data set or specific components that's going to be used as an input to a process automation workflow. And during the execution process automation workflow, we'll leverage one of the models, generative AI models, or any other cognitive services to perform actions and deliver on the output. While we were looking at the QA, the most important thing and number one questions that we are receiving from our clients is security. So Presidio built and that's how we started, to be completely transparent here. Before we even internally deploy any of the generative AI and AI solutions, we build a comprehensive framework where we address all the major points, and my colleagues are going to talk about that later in the presentation. So if we are looking at the business outcome, we are providing solution for automation challenge, but everything has to be stamped with a cybersecurity stamp of approval, and ensure that we are leveraging end-to-end security policies that you already have, and then helping you guys adjust them within in order to leverage generative AI and AI responsibly, and making sure that you guys are compliant with all the existing laws and standards.
Great, thank you, Mladen. Yeah, so just to kind of summarize, right, and we'll get into some more questions here. To recap, so we've shown you a number of things today that you can do, the art of now around AI, Copilot, Power Automate. But really, this is to get you thinking more about the art of the possible, and what you could do to, what you could add for productivity gains, what you could give your teams, allowing them to be more innovative. By using components that we just discussed today, and maybe integrating things like ChatGPT or Copilot Studio, which we didn't really talk a lot about, but I saw some questions in the chat too, like how can we customize this? How can we use Copilot to reach out? Maybe I'm maybe I'm a warehouse and I have a warehouse app or something like that I want to use, or I'm an educational facility and my student databases, in some other sort of data set, right? How can I attach to those and use Copilot to do that? That's really where the power is here. Or imagine if you're a healthcare provider, and you could utilize Copilot or AI to take, notes, based on recordings of appointments or patient meetings with a provider. It would, provide a much better patient experience because the doctor's not constantly looking down at their notebook, writing notes. They're focused on the patient itself. As well as, accurate notes, maybe writing prescriptions automatically. The time savings on that alone, which we've seen in some use cases, could be up to 15 minutes per visit. And I can tell you, any healthcare provider would love to see that type of savings, right? That would allow them to either see more patients or help their bottom line. So these are the types of ROI type discussions that we're having with customers, where we're seeing like, hey, there's the art of now, but what could we do with this? And this webinar is, basically a condensed version of what we'll be doing with Microsoft in our upcoming roadshow. These sessions will be more like a hackathon or an ideation process where we'll go through use cases. We'll go through a lot more deeper dives into demos. Somebody mentioned the demos are too fast. Agree 100%. When you put them into a PowerPoint, we try to condense this into an hour. We really do have to fly through things. But if we have in-person meetings with you, or you can join us at one of our Microsoft Technology Center in-person events, we'd love to go into this more detailed with you. So click on the QR code here. It will enter you. It's basically a very quick 5-question survey. It'll put you into a raffle to win an Xbox Series X. And if there's any follow-up, we'll have, that you have a choice in there to have us follow up with you as well. We just really thank you for joining today. And I think we're going to open it up now to any questions that you might have before we wrap.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Rob.
And you're welcome to come off mute. I think they can come off mute, correct, and ask questions?
They can just put the questions in the chat and the Q&A.
Okay.
Off mute today. But if we want to flip to the next slide, please.
Rob, real quick about the question about customers adjusting their budgets to fund investments. Do you want to speak real quick at a high level in some of the, funding programs, things like that for some of the, if you want to touch base and go through those, I think that would be applicable.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, adjusting budgets is one thing. Because of our partnership with Microsoft, we have the ability to tap into Microsoft funding, where they will actually, pay for some of your POCs or your investments in trying to figure out, how to be innovative with these. So one program is called the Azure Innovate campaign or program funding. Presidio is part of that campaign. We can, we just need to know more about the project itself. And typically we can generate funding to cover the costs of some of these projects. So you do have to qualify. There's some requirements for that, but we're more than happy to work with you. I think we've done $7 million worth of funded projects this year from Microsoft. So, it can be a game changer. Great question, though.
Thanks, Rob. And I did see the questions have been kind of flowing through the chat today, so we appreciate your engagement. And I know we've been answering a handful of them, but I did have just a couple more to ask aloud to our speakers. So first one here is, what is Microsoft Graph and Semantic Index for Microsoft 365 Copilot?
Yeah, so I can take that one. Microsoft Graph is really pointers or a engine that points to all the data that's within your, yeah, great, whoever brought this up, thank you. Basically, it's in your customer tenant today. It contains all your emails, your Teams, chats, your events, files if you have them in OneDrive. Basically, all the data that the large language model needs to go after and look for, whatever you're prompting it for. The semantic index, think of that as just an index that's built around all that data, right? Which this will create or get better over time. The more you prompt the Copilot, the better the index is going to get at building those answers, ranking them, making sure what it's providing you is relevant. And all that is tied into the existing security and permissions that you have in 365 today.
It's basically, instead of just doing a keyword search, it's building the conceptual map of what's being asked or what could be asked, and it's using that map to answer questions, which is much more useful and intelligent as opposed to keyword searches.
Great question.
Thank you both.
One general question I saw in the chat, do we have a link to sign up for the roadshow? Is that a page that we can put that, or did you already do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I will provide that in the chat to everyone. And then when we send the follow-up with the recording, I will also include the link to the landing page. And that's your go-to page with all of the links for the in-person events. And then additionally, if you miss anything on the event today and want to, watch it back, the recording is going to be on that page as well. Just so you're one-stop shop for everything on there. So I'll include that in the follow-up.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, sorry. I highly recommend, if you live close to these locations, to attend the MTC, which is the Microsoft Technology Centers. There's only probably, I think, like 20 around the US. And we hope to expand this to some other locations as well. But, those centers are really cool about the art of possible, the art of right now. There's kiosks in each of them that focus maybe on healthcare or manufacturing or retail that really show like exactly some of the things that we're presenting to you today. So we'd love to see you there in person, and we'll spend a lot more time on these subjects.
Yeah, and as I spoke about in the beginning, we truly see this as a journey. And one of the goals that we have coming out of this is that, the overwhelming thing going through your mind right now is how can you get more? How can we engage closer? So that is definitely our goal, whether it's the MTC event or if you're not in a geographical area close to that, we can definitely engage you more on a one-to-one basis. And Minneapolis is absolutely on the upcoming list there.
Thanks, Brian. And before we wrap it up, I do have one more question that I'll ask aloud to our speakers. So how do you see the GenAI opportunity/challenges differing between the public or government sector, education included, and the private business sector?
Bruce, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can take that one. So the use case that we showed you, the customer care experience one, that's actually based on public sector, government sector use case. So the difference is you have the data anywhere you have your customers have to crunch through lots of information, right? GenAI is a great use case where you can allow summarization and get to the answer quickly in relatively low effort way. You can apply those use cases, which is what we did that in that particular demo. So in terms of the challenges, that's a low-hanging fruit use case, right? So once you go more into, let's say you have to actually look at the customer's real data, like their account specific information, right? Now you're getting into a lot more rigor and data management that we talked about that has to go in before you can touch on those types of self-service use case. And from that standpoint, enterprise and public sector, you have similar challenges. So what we are seeing is customers attacking more the low-hanging fruit use cases. That's what they're working on. And customers who have already built more modern data platform, they have been working on them. They're just that much closer to unlocking more intelligent Gen AI applications, right? So that's the difference where they're at in the maturity spectrum when it comes to modern data platform.
And one thing, when we talk about, higher ed, for example, Maladen, one of the, we have a great success story with a very large university in the Midwest. Do you want to quick touch on, the benefits, et cetera, that they're reaping from process automation?
Oh yeah, so that customer is they were very conservative when they first engage, and we went through our typical engagement where we did we understood what they are trying to do, and we went through the proof of value concept. And we are now 18 months into the journey, and customer realized around between 1.3 to 1.5 million dollars in a cost avoidance. And if we break this by a use case, they basically the half of the benefits were recognized using conversational AI with a process automation in a form of the chatbot that is performing certain activities. And another part of the savings was realized in their internal financing department, where we are leveraging the AI-powered process, AI-powered document understanding, where we are extracting the information from the unstructured and structured documents and inputting them in a system of record. So this customer right now, from the AI process automation perspective, they have over 20 ideas in a pipe that we are just kind of going and working jointly to implement those. Very interesting thing regarding the usage of low-code, no-code platforms is that customer is pursuing the something that we call citizen development program, where they are going to really leverage the low-code, no-code platform and empower their citizen users, node developers across the different departments to develop their automation workflows that can help them in a specific task that they are doing day to day. So it's a great success story for us.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about a cost avoidance at $1.5 million, absolutely, that's a great one.
Mm.
So once again, McKenna, do you want to kind of close us out, because I know that
Yeah,
we're coming up on time?
absolutely. Yes. Well, if we don't have any more questions right now and you think of something and you want to ask it later to our speakers, I'll be sending a follow-up with their information so you can reach out directly. But we'll close it out here right on time. So I did want to give a big thank you to all of our fantastic speakers today. And thank you everyone who joined us. We appreciate your time and your engagement and all of your questions. It's great to hear.
I think somebody raised their hand, but maybe they meant to react. So.
Oh yeah, it looks like it was maybe a reaction
that's
there. Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, like I mentioned, following the webinar, we'll be sending the recording and our speakers info to reach out directly with any further questions. I'll also include the in-person event details at the Microsoft Technology Centers and the QR code for the forms you can fill out for next steps on how to get engaged with Presidio and maybe even win an Xbox, which would be really awesome. So thank you all again. We're looking forward to seeing you at our in-person MTC events if you're located near one of them, and at the next virtual Presidio and Microsoft webinar. So with that, everyone have a great rest of your day and night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.